There we go. Now it's live. All right. So, hey everybody. Tim and some random guy, otherwise known as the anonymous PI over on Twitter,
Or
um,
maybe I
or maybe not. And I've followed your account for a long time, so it's kind of interesting to me to talk to people that I've kind of followed off and on forever. And one of the things I found funny about it, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about was I'm a scientist. I'm a physicist by training. I work in artificial intelligence, machine learning, but I spent a lot of time at universities. And some of the weird stuff you get asked ranks up there with the weird stuff I get asked. So I thought it would be kind of interesting to like, I'll give you, maybe we just chat about some of the
yeah,
goofy stuff that it comes in off and on.
absolutely.
And I'll give you an example of the one that kind of cracks me up every time when I think about it. A couple Christmases ago, I was at this cocktail party. Very nicely dressed gentleman, professional job, upper six-figure income, well educated. So, oh, you're a scientist. I have a question. I need your help with something. I'm like, okay, here it comes. Um, I heard someplace that we were working on transporters, but then I also heard that by the end of 2024, we're going to verify that we actually have them working and we're just transporting people up to Mars to our colony and sending them food off and on using these Star Trek. Please just verify for me that's true because as a scientist, you should know. And I'm like,
Yeah,
all right, no part of that is true.
yeah.
And if it was, I would give a volunteer to be the first person on the transporter. You could go, give it a shot, see what
Yeah.
happens.
No, I think for us, it's the same. It really is. Only, I guess I feel a bit sad and a bit sorry for people that come to me with tales of woe because they're invariably tales of woe, and they think, well, there's two. There's two. This is going to sound bad, but it is. We're all professionals here. Um, I literally call them not to their face, but they're the batshit crazy brigade, right? They literally are. In some cases, they actually have been diagnosed, but they don't want to listen to their doctors. Um, so I get quite a few from private clients. Actually, most of the work that I do is not for private clients. So directly, most of the work that I do is for out of town investigating other investigators, investigation firms who require a presence in my particular area, but they don't have boots on the ground. So I am the go-to guy. About maybe, it varies. I'd say maybe 30% or less of the work I do is for my own direct, call me up out of the yellow pages or whatever, Google me client. Out of that 30%, I would envisage at least 50% are batshit. It's a rather high quotient, right? And some of them, I think, are not necessarily aren't necessarily completely batshit, but have got a completely unrealistic view of what private investigators actually do or can do. Probably from watching too much CSI or I don't know what. One of the very first inquiries I received, I've been doing this for 20 years now, but one of the very first inquiries I received from a private client was asking me, well, it's usually how much, it's the first question. It's never like, can you do this? It's how much is it? So how much would it cost for me to intercept her boyfriend's mail? Okay, that's blatantly illegal here, by the way, but how much would it cost to intercept his mail? Oh, and secondly, how much to intercept his phone communications? Also blatantly illegal here. And I'm like, well, where is he? Oh, he's in prison. Oh, hang on. Let me just get this straight here. You want me to intercept mail going to this prison, and also their phone calls, which adds another layer of illegality to that. But what's more concerning is you haven't come to me with a great big giant duffel bag full of cash. It's like, okay, well, you're asking me for something very illegal, and what's your budget? It's like some loose change and whatever else is in your pocket, some mints and I don't know, some fluff. It's like, okay, I'm going to say no anyway, no matter how much money you might potentially throw at me. But I'd like to know that at least you've got some money behind this completely wacky, illegal request, because what did you think I was going to be doing? You know? So I find that's one of the main, yeah.
I had somebody once come to me and goes, "Oh, you understand math and algorithms and all these computer things." I said, "Yeah." So how much would it cost me for you to break into my bank account and add a couple of $1 million? I'm like,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
okay, if I'm going to do that for you, why wouldn't I just do that for me?
Exactly.
Keep it
You
all
wouldn't
right.
even do that. You can put your own money. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, I'm a bit torn because, like I said, I feel sorry for a lot of people that do reach out to me with completely delusional cases, basically. And I kind of vacillate between two positions. One is I shouldn't take their money because they're batshit crazy, which I still feel most of the time. I don't want to take their money because they are batshit crazy, right? But on the other hand, maybe I can show them that their delusions are not real. And this is my mistake because this is when I'm starting to enter that world a little bit. And I should know that no, there's no way I can show them this because they don't want to know that. That's not the result they're after. They want to be vindicated.
Yeah.
Right? So a little while ago, I had those meek little old ladies never are meek, are they? But anyway, I had this mild-mannered, meek little old lady who was adamant, absolutely adamant, that every night some man was somehow climbing into her attic space in her house. Now, she lived in a fairly new, not a retirement village, but something similar, right? It's for over whatever age, over 65s or something, and you have a little villa, and you live in there until you are no longer able to take care of yourself, I guess. So it was a brand new, well, virtually brand new, modern house. And she was adamant, no, there's a guy coming in, he's been doing it for years, right? And she's at her wit's end, she doesn't know what to do. So I'm like, well, I know I can show you that this is not happening. That was my initial intention. So I rigged to attic space with some motion activated cameras with what do you call it? Infrared, no light visibility there. And the only time they ever pinged was when she opened up the little hatch, the attic hatch, to poke her head up with a torch, shining the torch around to see what was making the noise. There was nothing making any noise, but she's adamant that it's happening, right? So I moved the cameras around. She even had in her own house down below, the only entrance to the attic was this one little hatch in her bathroom. She had a camera, her own camera set up in the bathroom, just in case this man was getting into the house and climbing up the stairs and into the attic. But I absolutely adamant that it was happening. I gave her a digital voice recorder. So initially I said, look, I'd like you to record these noises, please. Now she's sure that he's got a radio going on up there and having conversations, maybe having a party. I think she heard more than one voice at one, something's happening up there. And I'm like, okay, well, if you can record it, that'd be great. I get back to the recording device after a few nights, and it's just basically her TV going in the corner and her wandering around and nothing else at all, right? And I'm like, okay. I try and explain to her there's nothing, absolutely nothing happening, and the only incident I'm catching on camera is that it's her going up, and she's like, no, he's getting in somehow. Well, I said, well, it can't be through the hatch because every single motion activation, it's you. So, she's okay. He must be getting in somewhere else. And the roof is made of not what do you call them? Not tiles, but they are layered like tiles, metal strips, long metal strips, maybe about 800 millimeters wide, and I don't know how long, a couple meters wide, and they're kind of laid over each other. Like I think they're made like copper, or maybe not copper, but something like that, like tin. I don't know. I get up on the roof, and I can see that there are footsteps on the roof. I'm like, oh, well, someone's been up here. And there was one of those like solar tubes for the lighting downstairs, right? And you can see that someone's been over to the solar tube, has poured new pitch seal around it, and that's pretty much it. And then the rest of the roof, I actually took photographs of all four sides because square house, and there was no other indication of anyone being been up there. But even more so, she thinks that this guy, is literally prizing open the roofing to climb in, and then also managing to put it back down afterwards. You know, I'm like, really, there would be obvious signs if that were the case, but more so, you would not be going through the night, not be able to hear the roof being pried open, right? It's just, no. So in the end, I agreed I would spend a night in her garage waiting for the malefactor to arrive, ready to apprehend him. Yeah, nothing happened. Let myself out at about, I don't know, 5 o'clock in the morning, and then she texts me later going, did you hear him? Did you hear him? I'm like, no. Oh, she goes, he must have come after you left. Well,
that's it.
That's it. That's true. It's in there. So anyway, yeah, unfortunately, my report to her ended with there's no provable evidence, lady, and that's literally it. There's no provable. Was she satisfied with the result? No, she was not.
So I get that one every once in a while with the UFO group, or the UAP or whatever they call themselves. I get that all the time. I get that all the time where people are like, so did you see that video that one guy put out? I'm like, okay, yeah, I see videos all the time that have Captain America in them. That doesn't make them real.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, just wait. Full disclosure's coming. Full disclosure very soon. Always very soon, right? I'm like,
yeah. What's going to come first, Jesus or full disclosure? I'm waiting for either.
I'm pretty sure Jesus is going to come first, but it's one of those things where it's like everybody wants to believe, and if the moment you say, yeah, that's not actually evidence of a UFO, that's just a video of whatever it happens to be. People are like, oh, you just don't get it. I thought you were smart. I get that one a lot. It was like, oh, people are like, oh, I thought you were smarter than that. I'm like, smarter than to look at objective evidence and go, yeah, I can find 50 explanations for that. One of which is UFO, but there's 49 others that are much more likely than UFO, right? So,
what they want is they want you to confirm their bias, right? Essentially, same with what I get. I mean, one of the other ones, I've been accused of being part of the conspiracy now on more than one occasion by people who believe in conspiracies.
You're being paid by them. Yeah.
Well, one was, I had a lady, again, mild-mannered older lady, come to my office, and she was really concerned. Well, this case started off with a degree of plausibility, right? So I was lulled into a false sense of security. But she was concerned that her adult daughter essentially had gone missing, and she'd gone to the police to report it, and they weren't all that interested in it. And she thought there was something a bit unusual about this whole thing. And she was concerned that her daughter is mixing with the wrong crowd and drugs and gangs or something. Could I potentially locate her daughter? And I'm, well, yeah, actually I can. That's what I do. I locate people, She gave me some details. Her daughter at that stage was in the early 20s, so she was an adult, completely gone somewhere. And I'm like, okay. Well, it took about 15 minutes or less to actually get an address for her, which was quite recent by the looks of it. So I went to the address. There's nobody there on the first occasion. I also found out where she worked and had a phone number. I actually gave her a call and said, "G'day, I'm a private investigator." And as soon as I said an investigator, she's like, "Oh, no, did my mother contact you?" And I'm like, "Yes." Why she did? She's quite concerned. So it turns out the mother was batshit crazy, and is prone to a number of delusions. So apparently we had this TV program, probably modeled off an American show, something Neighbors at War or something. It was about, a reality TV show where the camera crew would go and talk to both sides of a dispute, right? Neighborly dispute. So in this particular case, this woman was adamant that her neighbor was killing her cats or something. It was a big drama. And anyway, the daughter was like a bit perturbed. Apparently her mother didn't have any cats, or there was something else going on in the background, among other things. So she decided, no, her mother needed some help. She wasn't getting it, didn't want to talk about it. So the daughter decided that, no, it's time to get out and, live her own life from under her cloud of the mother. So, but apparently the mother didn't give up and had been going to her workplace, and to the point where her employer actually had to trespass the mother from the offices because she was becoming a nuisance. So there was a whole bunch of other stuff going on. So the daughter said to me, like, look, I would love to be able to speak to my mother and rekindle a relationship, but she needs help. So I said, look, I'll be the diplomat in this situation. I'm going to tell the mother that you are fine, you are healthy, you're not involved with whatever she thinks you're involved with, and that you would love to speak to her, but, and I'll delicately put it as best I can, she needs some help. And when she is getting that help, you would like to, be there for her. And she agreed to that. I said, also, what I will not do is I will not give her your current address because, I don't want her. So we agreed that was the way to go forward. So I called the mother into the office. We had a chat. I said, look, it's good news and some bad news. I explained to her that I'd spoken to the daughter. I'd found out where she lived, all the rest of it. She was fine, healthy, hearty, hale, all of it. But, and then, I'm like, look, she thinks that there are some difficulties that you're facing in life and you need some professional help to move on. And she would like you to get that help, and then she'll be there for you. And then this woman, mild-mannered, meek, showed me the other side of her, which was not mild-mannered nor meek. She screamed at me that I was part of the conspiracy that they had gotten to me. And she stormed out of my office, screaming at me that she'll pay me when she feels she's good and ready, and not before. And that was, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 years ago. I still haven't been paid. So if you're watching this lady, yeah.
So scientists, I'm sure you guys get some of them too. We tend to get a lot of the conspiracy theory people that reach out. So a friend of mine, I've got friends at universities all over the country, physics departments, and I've got a couple of friends that are in politics and in elected office, and they tend to forward me the crazier conspiracy theory ones, like, and every once in a while I'll have somebody come up to me and go, like, I need your help trying to figure out how to prove this is true. And somebody will always ask there's always two of them that I think are great. One is chemtrails, which are airplanes leave a trail. And, it's supposed to be like, I don't know, population control or something, or mind control or whatever. There's 3 or 4 different versions of it. And people are like, hey, can you confirm for me chemtrails? I'm like, yeah, I can look up and see contrails all the time. Not contrails. Those aren't the same. I'm like, okay. Yeah. So you're an investigator. So as a physicist, I always look at it this way. Are you telling me for 50 years, the U.S. government has kept a secret in conjunction with the airline industry and nobody leaked?
I'm talking about an industry that employs hundreds of thousands of people worldwide or more, and they're all of them, none of them are leaking it. It's complete secret. Yeah, absolutely
held. But and there's this one image of like a switch in an airplane cockpit that says contrails. I'm like, okay, I can Photoshop that too. It's not that hard. It's that's one of my favorite ones. The other one I had a couple of years ago was in the middle of COVID. I worked in nanotechnology for a while. So somebody wanted me to help them prove that the vaccines we were all getting were building nanostructures in our bloodstream to kill us. And I'm like, but they were only killing, the nanostructures were only killing old people and people with, I'm like, okay, the disease is killing those very same people, right?
That's how it's cleverly hidden, you see.
I'm like, why would you have to go to the trouble of a vaccine to accomplish the same thing the disease is doing? I'm confused.
Plausible deniability.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, the plot. You released the.
Well, so I'm currently again, literally just I think it was last week or the week before. I had another would-be client call me, and when he told me early on in the conversation that he was calling me from his car, not his house. I'm like, oh, okay, I think I know where this is going to go. So anyway, he is adamant that his neighbours for years now have been surveilling him 24/7. They've put cameras in every room of his house so they can watch his every move. So they know whereabouts in the house he is at any given point of time. So they can then make noises at the other end of their house so they know, they're telling him they know where he is. Why? But he literally described in his mind what he believed, that there was a room in his neighbour's house with a bank of 10 monitors where they are sitting watching his every move. I'm like, well, yeah, but why? I mean, and unfortunately, he couldn't really provide an answer to make me go think I'm going crazy. Yeah, but why? Why is someone going to put all that money and time into you, a pretty much nobody, right? And that's the thing. They can't grasp that, any actual prolonged surveillance operation done professionally, even non-professionally, it's time and money.
It's expensive. It's
very expensive. There's an article I read, I don't know, it was quite a few years ago now. It was the French DSGE. I'm missing a D there somewhere. There was an article about what their budget was for surveillance on one single member of some, Islamic terror group. And I can't remember exactly how many thousands of euro it was a day for 24-hour coverage, right? So, and again, quite recently, I had a woman come to me, and again, someone's grandmother, mild-mannered, meek, older lady, retired, who was absolutely 100% adamant that she was and her husband were being surveilled 24/7 for years, and she was pretty sure it was, one of our intelligence agencies. I'm like, okay, please detail to me what you've been experiencing. And she was, she goes to the bus stop and there's a black car parked up behind the bus and no one ever gets out. And then once she went towards it and it drove off in a huff, and the next day it was a different car. Or she's walking somewhere, everyone's got their phones up filming her.
Because nobody walks around scrolling Twitter.
Yeah, but a lot of stuff like that. I'm like, okay. And also she believes that there's, bugs, interception devices in her home. And I'm like, why do you think that? And she can see the lights. She can see the little lights, and I'm like, and then like the bathroom lights, she turns the lights off and they're still glowing. And I'm like, well, are they LED lights? Oh, yes. I said, well, isn't there a problem with some of the first generation LED lights that they still capture a charge when you turn them off? Do they still glow? Oh, it's not that. I said, well, lady, professional interception devices, aka bugs, do not have little lights to let you know that they're on, right? But anyway, so I actually met with her. I met with her, again, foolishly thinking that perhaps I can disabuse her of her notions. No. But anyway, we met on the rooftop of a local mall, shopping mall, where she drove up. I said, look, I'll be waiting for you. You drive up. I'm going to do some counter surveillance on you to see who's following you, if anyone is, right? So we agreed. She drove up to the mall. She parked up, she sat in the car for a couple of minutes, and then proceeded to walk through the mall to a cafe. And I was following her from a distance. And no one was phones up filming her. No one came up directly after her or for some time onto the rooftop, and then when we meet at this cafe, classic spy, thing. She sat at one table with her back to me. I sat at another with my back to her. We talked to each other. Anyway, and I tried to explain to her, that what she was experiencing in no way, or believe it, was the hallmark of professional intelligence operation whatsoever. But more so to the point, why would someone, why would they be interested in her? if she, are you a member of a terrorist group? Would you facilitate financing of terrorism? Are you part of an active, criminal organization? No, none of all those things. Well, unless you're something like that, you're of no interest to anybody, right? So, but anyway, thank you for my time. I thought I kind of spoke to her, and I thought I reached some kind of a, maybe made her understand something. I walked away with a kind of a good feeling until the next day. I got an email from her thanking me for my time, that clearly my allegiances lay with the authorities, and that she was now aware of who was in fact surveilling her. It was, and she named two of our intelligence agencies. And I'm like, okay, lady, there is no help for you.
My favorite one recently that I had personally was this guy that wanted me to help him with a lawsuit because he was suing Apple because not only was he the inventor of the internet and he lost out for credit on that, but he invented the smartphone and touch screens and something else, and he needed help so he could sue these companies.
Yeah.
And I'm like looking at it, and he contacted me through one of the social media outlets, and I had to block him. I'm like, I can't tolerate this stuff. And I looked it up. I was like, okay, I've got to just dig into this a little bit because it was like he was so adamant that he invented all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, surely this guy's got to be like 65, 70 years old because some of this technology is getting, at least in initial steps, getting back there. But
I got a funny feeling on where this is going.
First smartphone was 94, 95, I think, something like that. Dude is 35 years old. I'm like, the year you were born, the smartphone came out.
Yeah, well, he was a very smart baby.
I'm telling you, you didn't invent it, man. He goes, no, they stole it from me. I had the idea. I'm like, and he invented Wi-Fi. That was the other one. I'm like, dude.
Wi-Fi, yeah, okay.
Not
He's
there.
He's a smart guy. You should get him on board,
Yeah, I was like, dude, I'd hire you into my company if even a fraction of this stuff was true. I'd give you a job tomorrow.
I've heard he might be about to invent Bluetooth.
Yeah. Oh, and he's written 8 books in the last year. I was like, wow, you're not only smart, but you're busy, man.
I've come across these people who've written 8 books without writing any of them, thanks to whatever Chat GPT or some other.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. Who's going to read your shitty books?
Exactly. I've gotten some of those people too that are like, hey, can you help me prove I'm being hacked by some government conspiracy, whatever? And I'm like, it's pretty. I mean, it's almost impossible. I mean, you can kind of tell, but if you've been hacked, it's kind of tough for me to really sit down at your computer and say, yes, you've been hacked. I mean, you can kind of figure it out, but it's easier to. It's a little more difficult if it's a good organization doing it. And then you talk to the person that claims they're being hacked. I'm like, okay, you are not interesting enough at all for anybody to give a crap about who they're out there hacking you.
And that's what the thing that I find is that there's people that come to me with these great, amazing tales of how they're victims of conspiracy or gang stalking. Oh, if I ever hear that word again, honestly, you've got problems. If you believe, I had this one woman. I do a lot of insurance investigations for several insurers. Again, it's not the insurance company is not my direct client. Right. I'm the local guy, and I get contracted by outside parties who've got contracts with insurers, right? And I had one years ago where this woman was, oh my God, yeah. Her car was stolen. It was what was it? I can't remember the model, but the name was important because it was also the name of a gang, a local little criminal gang. And she was certain that they'd stolen the vehicle because the name was similar. But they returned it later, but stuff was missing. And she said, but she tied the whole thing into, she was being gang stalked. Like, she got onto a bus one day and every single person on that bus was mauled. And that's how she knew it was all part of this, right? Okay. They're giving her a message. Or that she's driving down the road and every single vehicle has got its left light out for some reason. Again, it's a subtle nod and a wink that we're following you, we're stalking you. But she tied it all back to when she was poisoned by the government when she was living on some Air Force land once upon a time. And I'm like, gang stalking. I often get emails from people who believe they're being gang stalked. It's like, dude, it's not a thing. You can't tell them that.
The gang does not care unless you carry around huge wads of cash with you. The gang does not care.
Well, no, gang stalking isn't necessarily about a criminal gang. It's just this organized surveillance of
Okay.
not necessarily, it's them, whatever,
The they group.
whatever.
It,
So when people say, "Oh, the helicopters are always flying over my house,"
yeah,
maybe you're part of, live near the airport, and it's part of, I don't know, that kind of thing.
I had this. I was doing this. I got myself in a little bit of trouble a couple of years ago. Not really trouble, but I thought it was funny. I was making a joke, but apparently it didn't get taken as a joke. Because I did some work for I worked in government contracting for a long time. I designed some bulletproof stuff, both glass and tested a bunch of it for the Army. Legitimately tested for the Army, not I went out and tested it and said, look at these results. The Army hired my lab to go do it.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me one day, he's like, so if all this work you're doing works out, you can sell your company, and what can you do? And I'm like, actually, as a hobby, I always thought if I was rich enough, just for fun, I would buy a black helicopter and hang television cameras on the side and fly over political rallies.
Yeah.
Just to do it. I mean, come on. It's what else are you gonna if you got enough money and you can play around? And which makes me upset that either Elon Musk or Bill Gates or any Bezos, none of those guys have done this, because it would be hilarious to me that you get one of the political guys out there and you start flying black helicopters over the area pretty slow.
And then watch the Twitter sphere or whatever social media lights up with all these reports of black helicopters. You got to invent a stealth mode, right? Like, what was that movie when they flicked the switch to put the black helicopters?
Oh, Blue Thunder, I think, or something like that.
No, there was some other movie. Well, like after Blue, that was a TV series, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a Roy Scheider or somebody was in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they could put the helicopter in stealth mode.
What was that movie with Mel Gibson? Conspiracy Theory.
Oh yeah. Where it was.
I think it was something like that. It was a bit of a nod there towards some of the other things, but the problem is that these people, for me anyway, I guess they come to me because they've fallen through the gaps in the health system. They're not getting the help they need. Mm-hmm. Clearly, no interventions or whatever else is required, and to their mind, they've got a problem that they're not getting any. I'm being stalked or whatever, but they're not getting any results going through what they perceive to be the right channel. To go to the police are absolutely not interested, right? They won't take a complaint. They'll tell them something like, well, we can't do anything until there's some evidence for you to show us, right? And the next thing they do is they call us. Hey, I need some evidence to show that I'm being stalked. I'm taking it to the police. I'm like, okay. So, it's kind of. I do find it a little bit sad, and I wish I could do something to help. But honestly, there's nothing I can do because they're not going to accept my. There's no evidence, and they don't want to hear that. They want to hear. Like the one I had the most recently was just last week, and the woman has supposedly she wants me to go through some devices. She may have some camera footage or something or other. But anyway, she is adamant that she's being stalked. Now she may be stalked. I don't know. I can't just discount it, right? But where things in her story go a little bit weird is that he uses some device that you can buy on Amazon for $100 to see through the walls into her house. And that she knows this because she's in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and she can see some green lights being shone like a torch. I'm like, so he's outside with his $100 Amazon see-through walls kit. Fuck, find me that link because I want to buy one, right?
I'll buy 2 of those.
I'll buy the whole damn lot,
Yeah.
I tried to explain to her there is no such device that you can buy from Amazon for $100 that will do anything like that you're saying it can. Oh no, you can. I've seen them on Amazon. Okay, I've got a an infrared not scope, a sight, the infrared monocle. That costs me over $10,000. I'd love to be able to find something a bit cheaper that look through walls as well. But
so when I was working on the defense contracting side, and this is all public stuff, we were working on a system that you could actually hold up against the wall to tell whether or not there was a person inside there, but you
Yep.
couldn't tell where they were, how many of them there were. You could just say, yes, there's a person.
Oh,
And
interesting. What was
it,
that? What was that using?
it was using long wave radar to go
Right.
through the wall. So, but you can't visibly see. You could just tell, is there somebody breathing inside that
Yeah,
room?
yeah, yeah,
Because the breathing causes motion, and you can kind of figure that out.
yeah.
But that was 50 grand, 60 grand or something. Those are not inexpensive.
No,
And you got to have all the specialized gear to do it. I mean, and now it's kind of the same technology as like ground penetrating radar,
yeah.
sort of the same stuff, but it's designed to go through a wall and it filters out like fans and typical things that
Cool.
oscillate and all that. So
I love
it's the kind of stuff that's out there, but it's not cheap, right? It's not, you're not going to like wander down the street and grab it. It's shockingly expensive.
Because also the market for that is rather, unlike like a torch, the market for something like that is quite specific and limited.
Yes.
So of course, prices are going to be reasonably high.
Yeah, you're going to sell like 30 of them ever because people don't care.
I can imagine a bit of a larger market within the law enforcement community around the world and the like, or intelligence agencies and stuff. But
it's not big.
You're going to get on special anywhere.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's some of the stuff that looks like magic and it's just technology, but some of them are getting better and better. But that particular one, I thought, okay, that's pretty cool, especially if you're like a SWAT team or something trying to figure out, hey, is there a bad guy in there? Do I need to go break the door down, or is that room okay? I just ignore it. Right?
Certainly the old school method of drilling a tiny little hole. And putting it in the fiber optic.
Yeah, it solves that problem right away. But that's pretty cool tech, but it's off the charts, crazy expensive. I mean, it's not. And it's not easy to use. It's very delicate. You've got to hold it exactly in the right spot. It's all kinds of weird stuff. It has issues with like men's rooms because it does all these doors and goofy stuff.
Okay, right. Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it has problems in certain areas, but some of those things are pretty neat. But so the other one I was always curious about when it comes to PIs is divorce cases. How many divorce cases do you wind up coping with?
Well, we have no fault divorce laws, so
so you don't really get that.
No, not exactly. Although, no, well, I do get a lot of inquiries. Not a lot. I do get a number of inquiries from people who suspect that their partner is potentially cheating on them. Now, the problem is I love to talk myself out of work. So one of the things I do generally is tell them, hey, look, if it were me, my understanding of these relationships is that supposedly trust is the cornerstone, right? And if you don't trust your partner, if you've asked them about this before, are you cheating on me? And they say, oh, no, dear, I'm not. And you don't believe them, why don't you just save the money, keep the money, split, and have a really good holiday somewhere else and start your life afresh? You don't need me, right? Oh, no, I just want to know. Well, I understand you want to know, but that lack of trust is never going to go away, because I can surveil someone for a week, a month, or whatever. They're not out there shagging their secretary or whatever they're doing every day, every minute of the day, right? They're doing it on their own timetable when opportunity allows. So I might surveil them for a period, and that period they may be doing nothing untowards whatsoever. So I can come back and say, yeah, they weren't shagging anyone, but would you really know?
The one that floats around here in the United States for that particular topic is kind of funny. It's like there's these Instagram videos where women are like, here's how you find out. You put an Apple AirTag and you discreetly sew it inside his shoe so you can track where he is. I'm like, if you're to that point in a relationship, just give up. Right?
That's pretty much what I'm telling them. You don't trust them. Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I still want to go ahead. I'll take their money, but those AirTag thing. I think those AirTag days are gone now. Anyway, but I think Apple's now introduced that all AirTags will show on any device that's looking for them. So because they got sick of all the unauthorized use of AirTags. It's not supposed to be trying to track your bloody spouse around.
No, it's supposed to be to find your car keys when you can't find them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I've got somewhere I've got one lying around here charging. I've got a small GPS tracker within a magnetic case to follow someone's husband or wife in their vehicle around. But there are laws about how it can and can't be used. So essentially, the first thing is that, well, is that car that they're driving, is that considered joint relationship property? Because if you don't have a claim of ownership to that vehicle, then no, you can't put a GPS tracker on it, right? Because It's not your property. And then technically you're interfering with a motor vehicle, and there may be some other things there as well. So, if your husband or wife, say, works for another company, they're employed by an external company, and it's their vehicle, then no, I can't put a GPS on it. They're like, oh, but no one will know. Well, yeah, unfortunately, maybe they will know. Maybe the car's going to go in for a service, and someone's going to, oh, what's this black box parked up underneath behind the wheel here? Which happened. We've got this one particular. I'm not going to mention names, but there's a rather well-known investigations agency here who have for years and years and years worked for various governmental departments and branches and whatnot. How they get the work, I don't know, because they have spectacularly fucked up a number of times where they've been dragged through the media for, fucking up. In one case, the last case in particular, which I think lost them the governmental contracts, was they'd placed a tracking device on a vehicle. Well, actually, this wasn't the last one. This is before the last, but there were some protesters protesting against, I don't know, pig farming or something similar for pork, meat. And these guys were in court for trespass. And while they were in court, these investigators, on behalf of some agency, put a tracking device on the vehicle, but in such a way that when these guys came out of court, what's that under the car? Opened it up, pulled it out, big long black tube, opened it up, it's got batteries and a transmitter. What's this? It was a hired device from some other company. They actually tracked it back to the company that provided it, and then found out that it was actually this investigations company that had hired it. And then shit hit the fan. It's like, yeah, you don't want to be the guy that gets caught doing stuff you shouldn't be.
Yeah, it could kind of put a hamper on future business, right?
These guys were raking it in. I mean, they lost the contract. They were about US dollars. I don't know. They were billing one governmental agency or semi-governmental agency $50,000 US a month for something.
Wow.
$50,000 a month for 1.5 years.
That's a pretty good contract, man. That's not a
that's what these guys do. They're always after these high tier, but absolute bullshit work. My understanding is they were ramping up. They were producing an intelligence dossier once a month on threats too. And it's like, okay, these guys are some protesters who are protesting against some animal, something or other. The actual threat they pose is not to the level where you need to spend $50,000 a month on an intelligence dossier. I mean, it's a great wicket, right? I mean, if I can get that, sure, yeah, absolutely. These guys are a threat, and I will write you something up that shows that. For the next 1.5 years, look, I'll do it for $40,000 a month because I'm reasonable.
Yeah. I'll give you a discount. We'll go to 38.
I'd like to see how they justify those costs. I'd like to see the invoices. I mistakenly saw an invoice from another investigator regarding a straightforward serving documents on a prisoner job. Now, I serve documents on prisoners quite often, and one of our prisons is just a little bit out of town. There's a little bit of mileage and all the rest of it. It's like, I charge a couple $100, a reasonable fee, right? This guy was like $2,000. How the fuck did you get? Well, firstly, I mean, if I could justify $2,000, I'd love to. But who the fuck looked at that and go, yeah, okay, that's reasonable.
It's a prisoner. You know where they are.
It was twice. And I'm like, Jesus.
I
So
mean,
now
I, I get trying to serve somebody that's hard to find, but I mean, it's a prisoner. They're kind of like right there. It's
I
not
mean, maybe
not a
they had to
big
get
job.
I don't know. I mean, there may have been some justification there that they had to locate the person and ended up that the person was in prison, but the invoice wasn't. It wasn't. It didn't say like serve $200 tracing 1,800. It was just a single $2,000 line, right? I'm like, okay.
So that's the one I get every once in a while. Somebody wants me to like. I get these calls from people like, "Oh, you know computers? Can you help me trace back who sent me this email? It's a Gmail account." I'm like, no,
Right.
I'm not. It's like who sent? Who really was behind this? I'm like it's a Gmail address.
Not
Call
that long
Google.
ago.
Next.
I remember years ago, I was looking at someone had been receiving, poison email, that whole thing, like poison. Well, firstly, the physical letters as well, but also emails. And the emails back then, we could tell, yeah, we looked at the X headers and, okay, it came from this IP. But this is before, everyone had, say, broadband modems and dynamic IP addresses.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
now I think it's not quite the same at all. You get
No.
an IP address, but it doesn't really mean jack shit, right? As to its location. Whereas before, we had these emails that were coming from the particular location. We could say, okay, they're all coming from this particular thing. But that was a crazy case too. I actually ended up finding this person because they kind of knew who they thought it was. And the letters were so ridiculous. She was sending cards to this guy's wife. And trying to say that her husband was a dirty piece of shit and all the rest of it, having all these affairs. And so these cards were like purportedly from these different women, right? Because the handwriting was completely different every single card, right? Except, firstly, the handwriting were like, in some very obvious that I'm writing in this really totally fucking made up style, so I don't look like anybody else's handwriting. But more to the point, the envelopes were all addressed exactly the same way, with the address written in. Normally, when you get an envelope, right, the address is normally somewhere, as a particular location. But in all these cases, that location was actually like a little bit further down, a little bit further to the right or left or something, All of them, every single envelope, same place, which was like, if I was looking at that, I'm going, that's a weird place to write someone's address. Oh, I mean, I've got 10 of them in different handwritings, but all addresses in exactly the same location. It's like, yeah, okay. So
That's the same person. Yeah.
to find her, this is weird. I actually found that she had an online account for, we've got like a local, like eBay, right? And she was selling jewelry or some bullshit through eBay or that sort of thing. So I actually created a fake profile and bid on one of her pieces, and I didn't care how much. It was one of those you could go and collect. So I won the auction and said, like, I'd like to come and collect and pay you cash. And she gave me her address. And then instead of me coming up with all this cash, some fake name person, I think it was a woman or something, I ended up with me, a private investigator, with all these bags marked evidence, with all these like things trying to get explained. And when she saw me, I asked her at the door. Her husband was in there. She's married. And her eyes just like, oh my God, I don't know who it is. I was going to go talk to him outside. So she came out and closed the door behind me, so her husband couldn't hear what we were saying. But yeah, oh fuck, that was nuts. I didn't think it was going to come back to her, but
stolen goods. Yeah, details.
Oh, it was weird. People go to some great lengths to think that they're being clever, but yeah.
Yeah, you got to be like, extraordinarily clever in the modern world to kind of get away with the counter with some of this stuff. But
there's always a trail. That's the problem. There's always a trail.
always a trail, especially now. It's like one of the ones that I thought was funny was recently the U.S. tried to ban TikTok, which lasted about 18 hours.
Yeah.
And my only thought was, wow, VPN companies are going to make a lot of money because the Americans try to VPN to get into TikTok anyway. It's not going to change.
Well, I was wondering in China. I mean, I think it might be probably potentially illegal for their citizens to use VPNs to get around the no Twitter or X now, no Facebook, no none of this Western social media is allowed. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just look at it like, in the modern world, to trace somebody, you can, the only way, there's a lot of ways you can not trace things on the internet, but when it comes to like stolen goods and stuff you're willing to do in person, it's just forget it. There's too many cameras everywhere. And
Yeah.
the other one that cracks me up now is occasionally you'll see people yell like, "Well, what about our privacy?" I'm like, "Our privacy was gone 15 years ago." Okay, it's the moment you picked up a smartphone, your privacy was gone. It's uh,
Yeah.
like I have an Alexa here at home and Siri and something else, and
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
and I said something the other night in front of my 12-year-old daughter, and I said, 12-year-old girls, my daughter tends to be very sarcastic. She's 12. I'm dad. She's not going to take me seriously. I get it, right? And I said something about, she's with her. I'm divorced, so she's with her mother this week. I have her 1 week, and so she's here half the time and over there half. And I said, she's like, "Oh, what are you going to do next week?" I was like, "Well, I'm going to go do some stuff with my friends and blah blah blah." And she goes, "Oh, you have friends?" And Alexa comes on and was like talking about, "Am I your best friend?" I was like, "Oh my God." So people think that there's privacy, and if you have these devices in your home, you have no privacy anymore. It
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
gone the moment you plug that stuff in.
Yeah. I occasionally get the same thing with I mean, I don't use things like Alexa or anything like that. I don't even use the shit on my phone, but I'm driving somewhere and, all of a sudden my phone pipes up, "I'm listening." What the fuck are you listening to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like if you talk in front of Alexa and you start talking about something you're thinking about purchasing, you'll notice very quickly that your Amazon ads all turn out to be the thing you
Right.
were talking about. So it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
your
That's what
privacy's gone, man. It
I
hadn't
do.
been the same for a long time.
Yeah, we live in that sort of interlinked world now, don't we? Everything's pretty much online. Yeah, it's kind of useful to me sometimes in a way, but it's an increasingly online world. Um, so, in terms of, say, locating people, you know, for example, say I regularly get asked to locate someone for whatever reason, right? Maybe it's a friend that lost touch with, maybe it's a debtor that owes a shit ton of money and has gone to ground. Whatever reason, doesn't really matter. So we've got generally, I have like about a list of, say, 10 things that are my routine. So you come to me, I want to find Jane Blogs. Okay, I need like a first name, and then either I need an old address or a date of birth, right? With those three, or two of those three things, full name and then one of the other two, I've got a reasonably good chance of finding somebody because I've got these databases now where the commercial databases that basically will supply address information based on a whole bunch of other stuff. So, for example, you get a utility put on your house, right? You just got a new account for an internet provider. Well, guess what? That information is uploaded somewhere. These guys can scrape that. I get an address, and I'll get a date. It won't tell me what the utility that was put on, but it will tell me that there was what do they call it? There's like a little code, and I know that's like a utility, right? And it'll give me the month and the year. So I know that this month and this year, there was a utility put on your name to this address. Well, that implies to me that you're probably living there, or we're at that stage. And sort of stuff like that, makes my job a lot easier. It certainly does. Can't always guarantee that information is correct. Sometimes, some people move around quite a lot. I've had this case, you look at this and in the last 2 years, they've had, 12 different addresses. So, and the last one I've got might be, say, 4 or 5 months old. Well, given their history of moving around 4 or 5 months, are they still living there? I don't know. But, it's a start,
Yeah.
What the AI or other cannot replace, at least at this stage, is the physical need for someone to go knock on the door and ask questions. So I
Yeah,
feel my job is largely future-proof to a point. Maybe one day they'll have one of those walking robots, knock, knock, knock. But, people probably don't want to talk to machines. They want to talk to a person. I don't know.
I think it might depend on the person. Some people might want to talk to a machine instead.
That's true too.
There's occasions I get along with machines better. All right. Well, I don't want to take up your whole day. We've been at this for about an hour, but thank you for coming on and taking the time to chat. We'll have to. I love your account, by the way. It's anonymous PI, I think, is your handle.
Anonymous, anonymous. And that's why I'm some random guy that no one
Some
knows.
random guy. No one knows who you are. It's a lot of fun. I try to repost you as often as I see it. So it's
Cool. Yeah. Well, I just use Twitter as my what's the word? Stress relief to snark and to let loose.
I don't necessarily use it as I mean, it's not my profession, right? I'm a silly scientist who does
I
other
thought
stuff.
you were a writer for some reason.
I am also a writer. I've written a couple of fiction books, but it's kind of funny the way that came about. I used to work at a university, and I've started a couple of companies, and I've done other stuff. But I started writing books because I've always been a very avid reader, and I was complaining to somebody who was a very well-known writer that there's really not books that I want to read coming out anymore, other than
Yeah.
his. I was very
Yeah.
careful to say yours, right?
Yeah. Of course.
Because he's sold a couple 100 million books, and he goes, "So shut the hell up and write one." So I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay." So I wrote, what, one, two, six now, I think. So it kind of turned into this sort of weekend and evening hobby, and then I wound up with teenagers and I don't have time to do it anymore.
What do you write? What genre?
Action thrillers mostly,
Okay.
military kind of thing, because I'm an Army vet, and I know technology, so it tends to be high tech Army kind of related stuff.
So high tech fancy-ish type of scenario, yeah.
Yeah, but not quite nearly as technically detailed. And my co-author is a guy I've known since high school, so I'm in my 50s now, and high school goes back a ways. And he's a former combat medic he was in Afghanistan,
Right.
Purple Heart. He's big. He was he was in the military a lot longer than I was, and he wrote a bunch of the injury sequences because he was a medic and he knows that
Yeah.
side, right? So I handled the technology, he handled the medicine side. And then we wrote another book recently. Our most recent release was this one called Diocese Dilemma, where I grew up in the Catholic Church because my dad was very, very, very Catholic. I'm really not terribly religious, but so I wrote this book called Diocese Dilemma that Mike and I worked on about what happens if a Catholic priest decides to use the confessional to find people that are beyond absolution.
Yep. I've seen that book of yours. Either you had been plugging it or someone's been plugging it. I had seen the cover and a blurb about it. Yep.
So it's a serial killer priest, right? Which I thought was kind of a unique idea. And I've had some people tell me, it's like, well, no priest would do that. I'm like, are you sure? Because I grew up in the Catholic Church, and there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on. So,
I'm currently involved, without telling too much, I'm currently involved in an investigation around the Catholic Church.
Nothing would surprise me, honestly. And, so I said it in New England, which is a part of the United States that even until about 15, 20 years ago, still had a bunch of organized crime problems.
Yeah.
But every organized crime family had a priest in the family, it seemed like. So I made it's helpful.
Yeah,
right? So I made the Catholic priest a member of a crime family. So it was like sort of two worlds.
Hang on, I'm going to write this down. Like, actually, if you can flick me a message.
I'll send you an Amazon link to it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
but yeah,
I'm an avid reader as well, and I'm kind of like you said. I'm finding it difficult to find books that I want to read. I get like a lot of novels. I quite like the initial premise. I don't like the way the author then took the story or something. There's something about it like that, and it's just like I've been toying with writing myself for many years. So I finally completed a short story. There was a short story competition. I said, fuck it. I'm going to apply. I'm going to send this off. I had this brilliant idea for a short story. Well, I completed my short story, but it was like 3 months after the competition ended.
Well, it's a lot. It's actually kind of therapeutic in ways to do. So like my buddy Mike, he had a lot of PTSD issues, and he kind of worked them out through writing, which was kind of nice. But the Diocese Dilemma for me was kind of the first book idea I had, but it was kind of difficult because it had a lot of aspects to it that I wasn't necessarily used to crafting into a story.
Yeah.
It might be more your world because it does involve an investigation into all these horrific murders across New England, right? So I think we got the police side of it right. What disturbed me about I don't know, what I thought was interesting about it was because my dad was very active in the church. I know some of his friends who are priests, and now one's a bishop and one's a cardinal, I think. And I sent it off to some of my dad's friends. I'm like, hey, what do you think? Right. So I sent them copies before I publish it. And a couple of them were fans of the priest that was a serial killer. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, that concerns me. One of
Yeah.
them, one of them sent, one of them sent it to a bishop and was like, the bishop thought this was great. I'm like, okay, this is even more disturbing. I'm like, because we're like 2 steps away from the Pope here, right? So I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, that's
I'm like,
right.
let's stop, right?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
not send it on to anybody
It's
else.
fiction. Do not get any ideas. It's not a how-to manual.
Yeah, it's not a how-to manual. But the part that was kind of fun in that particular book is my search history for a while probably looked like something that could get me convicted of a
Probably,
crime
probably
because I
you're
was
wrong.
looking at all these medieval torture things and stuff. And yeah, it was a very fun book to write.
Yeah,
And I may someday do a follow-up to it. I don't know. But
yeah.
it there was some talk for a while about that one becoming a movie, and I'm like, oh, that would be fun. Right?
Wouldn't
Because
that be? Wouldn't that be
it,
interesting?
I'm not sure it would ever happen, but I'll
Yeah.
believe it when I see it. It's one of those things.
So the other
Uh,
thing I like about you is your little background there with your 20 D20 there. Um, you post quite a few things about D&D. Obviously, you're a gamer.
I've played D&D since I was in since 1982 or 83 someplace. And lately I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm getting older. My kids are teenagers. They don't want to hang out with me anymore because they're teenagers, and that's what happens. So I was looking for new things to do, so I kind of got back in the hobby in a more substantive way. So I've kind of been, doing that sort of stuff lately, just because it gives me something to do.
Yeah,
Um, and I got divorced a couple of years ago, so I've been dating for a while, for a couple of months now. I've been dating a woman who's a therapist, and she's like, "No, no, Dungeons and Dragons is great therapy for some people." It's like, "Go, go, go." I was like
official
that's,
blessing,
I was
sanction.
like,
Yeah.
that's kind of
No,
concerning.
I don't play D&D. Again, I did play D&D about the same time in the early 80s for a while,
Yeah,
but I've moved on. So yeah, I'm also I try to do a role playing session with a group of friends every week, but as things go, yeah, we've been doing a long standing June campaign.
I
Based on the Modifius, have got quite a few good role playing. They've got June's one of their games, and I've been quite enjoying it. I've been for years. I had this plan. I had this idea for a campaign to sort of follow the Atreides timeline prior to them being sent to Arrakis. So I've had that kind of as a these guys are like affiliated to the house, but it's the years like 20 years before, and then during that time frame. So we got to the stage after about a year of playing, or a year and a bit of playing, where Paul has just been born to the Atreides. So that timeline is now ticking.
That could be fun. I actually picked one up recently that was a Steve Jackson game from way back in the 80s,
Oh, yeah.
called Toon, where you get to play cartoon characters.
I remember
Uh,
that.
yeah, so like that one actually could be fun. And my kids want me to try one that we just got called Fallout, which is kind of after the video game
Yeah,
series, but
I've seen that one out as well. There's
it's
quite a few of them coming out with I know. So I think Fallout is that the one that that's the RPG. They've also got like a tactical game as well with miniatures, I believe.
yeah. There's a couple of Fallout things kind of coming out, and
Yeah,
I was talking to somebody earlier this morning who is well known in the video game and game design space about something else, and wasn't a live stream. It was just a discussion. But they're big into the Cthulhu world, which is the
oh,
mythos that kind of
yeah.
makes you lose your mind and all that kind of stuff. So
I have many good fond recollections playing Call of Cthulhu back in the good old days.
yeah,
I had
I was actually talking to the designer, a guy named Sandy Peterson, who
in
actually worked on
person,
the
yeah,
game
yeah, yeah.
and other
I
stuff.
still
So
wish I had my. I mean, we had a rather major catastrophe here 10 years ago. Well, a bit more than 10 years ago now, actually, 13 years ago. Where I lost everything I owned, including things like my first edition Call of Cthulhu and among
mhm.
other things. So I do wish I still had that actually.
so if you're in the same age bracket I am, and it sounds like you are, remember
Yeah,
when Doom first came out, right? The video game Doom.
absolutely.
There's a new version coming out, I think in April or May. And this one just blows the others away. The others were fantastic for the time. Those other games just can't be beat. I mean, they were as good as they got. But they have modernized it to the point where it's just incredible. If you haven't seen the YouTube preview of it, it's well worth looking at. And
Mhm.
The shotgun used to be the fun weapon because you kind of splatter monsters pretty
Right.
easily. But in this one, you actually get to take the skulls of dead monsters and load them in your gun as ammunition. So you're literally grinding the skulls of your enemy to shoot back at them, which I thought was just the coolest idea ever in a first-person shooter. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you keep topping violence in games, but they figured it out. I mean,
Yeah, that's some new ultraviolet method here that never been tried before. Yeah.
using the actual skull of your enemy as ammo
Yeah.
that might achieve the goal here. But I don't want to take up your whole day. I gotta jet to something else. But
Awesome.
great to finally meet you, and
Yeah.
we'll see you online.
All right. Catch you next time. Thank you very much.
Bye.
See ya.
See you.